and I will be presiding over the hearing today. And I'm going to read the letter from the governor first. Dear councilors, I am pleased to nominate Elizabeth R. Cerda to, did I pronounce that right?
You did.
To the position of Clerk Magistrate of the Waltham District Court. I submit this nomination for the advice and consent of the Executive Council pursuant to Part 2, Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I am enclosing the nominee's resume for your convenience. So I want to introduce the council. Unfortunately, I have one member here, Councilor Kennedy. And I welcome you. And now, why don't you introduce everyone that's come here for you?
So I have my husband, Peter Katujian, and my 3 children, Peter, Christian, and Isabel. My sister, Sandra, is here as well. And I have Judge Julie Bernard from the Associate Justice from the District Court here as my witness, as well as Kevin Finnegan, who is the Clerk Magistrate from Peabody District Court. And I also have my good friend, Chelsea City Manager, Tom Ambrosino.
Okay. And your daughter's sitting in the governor's chair.
Sitting on the best chair.
So first I'm going to call on your witnesses. And your first witness is, your first witness is Judge Julie Bernard. How many years? 20 years, I think.
I think it'll be 20 years next month.
Oh, that was for me.
Thank you.
What took you so long to come back?
Well, I'm happy to be here on this very special occasion, and I'm happy to be here to speak on behalf of Elizabeth Cerda. It is an honor and a privilege, and I can say without reservation that she will be an outstanding clerk magistrate of the Waltham District Court. Waltham District Court and the Waltham community will benefit from her legal experience, administrative skills, her management skills, and her knowledge of the Massachusetts court system. As you can see from her resume and the governor's nomination, she has had a breadth of experience in the district court and throughout the court system in her time working for the Massachusetts trial. Now, if you look at mass.gov, they describe the district court as the gateway to the justice system. And it's clear that the clerk's office is the entry point for attorneys, for self-represented litigants to this gateway. And I think that a clerk's office with Elizabeth Cerda at the helm is on the right place, and I will tell you why. With just a few examples of the many projects and issues that I've worked with with Elizabeth over the years. She has a positive attitude. I can tell you during the height of the pandemic, Elizabeth Cerda was responsible for spearheading virtual town halls throughout the state at various court communities that provided information about court services and operations, as well as public health information. At the height of the pandemic, this was in 2020, this was done in vulnerable communities for people to get information about how to access court services. This was the first time that this was done. It was tremendously successful. Thousands upon thousands of people were able to access this information virtually through public access TV, through YouTube. It had never been done before. It was tremendously successful. And she was responsible for collaborating with court leaders, community leaders, and it was tremendously successful. She is respectful and fair. She worked with court leaders, municipal leaders, community leaders throughout the state to provide this meaningful information through this public health crisis. She listens and has the ability to work through an issue. Putting together these virtual programs was not an easy task. Each community was unique and had its own cultural identity, needs, and language issues. Elizabeth has the ability to listen, solve problems, and meet those needs and work through any issues that would come up. Now, most importantly, Elizabeth will roll up her sleeves and get the job done. I also serve on the Access to Justice mission with Elizabeth, where we meet to improve the needs, unmet civil needs of people throughout the state. We work together on a committee where we published a report on online dispute resolution, a new technology which the Massachusetts court system will be exploring to improve access to justice in this new digital world that we are in, as it moves forward with its new technology infrastructure. Elizabeth was instrumental in help and assisted in the publication of this report, which the trial court will be using as it moves forward with its new technology budget that it just received from the legislature. Elizabeth is familiar with Massports, with Massports technology, with trial clerk's office operations. I've worked with her on ADR issues, alternative dispute resolution issues, in the district court. I've worked with her on many projects. She will roll up her sleeves and get the job done. That's what a clerk's office needs, and I can say without reservation that she will be an outstanding clerk magistrate. We also serve on an SJC committee that is rewriting the judicial guidelines for self-represented litigants. That's ongoing work. We're at the middle to end of that stage of the proceedings. And she's been instrumental in organizing, collaborating with justices throughout the court system in rewriting these guidelines to meet the current needs of our court system, to meet the needs of representing self-represented litigants. So I can say without hesitation, she's going to be an outstanding pick, and she is an outstanding pick, and I commend Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Pettito for this nomination. Now, she hasn't had a traditional path to this nomination, as you can see from her resume. And on the many calls that we've had, I can say that working with someone throughout the pandemic, we've become friends. I consider her a friend. And she's held one of the most important jobs in the court system. And Attorney Jubenville, you've been a practitioner. We've known each other for many years. Court interpreter is one of the most important jobs in the court system. You meet people where they are. And in the district court, that's one of the most important jobs. And Elizabeth held that job when she was going through law school. And you learn about people, and you see the humanity in people. And in the district court, that's the most important part of the job. And it's the part of the job that I love and have loved for the last 20 years. That's why I'm still in the job, and I'm honored to hold my position for the last 20 years. And I know that Elizabeth has seen everything, she's heard everything, and she will approach her job with integrity, with respect, with empathy, and that's what a clerk magistrate needs. Now, when I was preparing to come here today, I thought about Elizabeth yesterday as I was doing my work in Plymouth. As I told Counselor Kennedy, I work in Plymouth now. I was doing a mental health hearing. I had a mother during a mental health proceeding that got quite upset while I was going through a Section 7 and 8 proceeding about the commitment of her daughter for mental health issues. And she got quite upset. It was a Zoom proceeding, and I know clerk magistrates, the clerk magistrate that will speak does Zoom proceedings. It's a different world that we practice in now in the district courts than it was 20 years ago. And the mother got quite upset with me over this Zoom proceeding, and she started to yell and said, "You don't understand, Judge, what it is. I'm a mother. You don't understand, Judge. I'm a mother. You don't get it." And I put up my hand and I said to her, "I get it. I do. I am a mother. I get it." Well, I can say to you all in this room, Elizabeth gets it. I've talked to her. She is a mother. She's got family. I know her family is watching from everywhere and over in Spain. They're watching this proceeding, and her mother is watching. She gets it. She's a mother. She's diverse. She knows what it is. She's empathetic. And I also told that mother, it's not quite right for you to give me the finger as I'm do it with the same grace that I hope I gave that mother, and I know that she will, because she is a mother, and she's going to be the professional that she is, and she will do her job with integrity, with competence and commitment to the position that it is. And I ask you to vote favorably on her nomination next week. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak.
It's what an honor to have you here to represent her. And for the councilors here, I want you to know that Councilor Ianella and I voted for this great judge 20 years ago. And you look great. Any councilors have any questions? Councilor Kennedy?
You go to law school, Judge?
Went, you know where I went, because we went together.
Let's have it. Huh?
That's right, we're
In the BC?
That's right,
Yeah, what's that?
yes. I'm
I'm
not,
bringing this out for Council Iannella, because he's a big BC fan, that's why. We went to law school together.
My tailgate will begin Saturday, 3:30.
that's right.
It's great to see you, Judge.
See you too.
Before I go on, excuse me, I neglected to have people, whoever wants to speak, to stand and take the oath. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. And to the councilors, please, I beg, and it doesn't work, but I'm begging again, put cell phones away, okay? Let's be respectful to the nominee. Thank you. I think the Councilor Juvie had his hand first.
Good to see you, Judge.
Good to see you.
Your testimony means a lot to me. I'm going to vote for her. But I'm very concerned with something you said. And there's 4 lawyers sitting here, and I think that we're all concerned. What is this self-representation thing?
We want that.
We going to be out of a job?
I think the reality is that they're just more self-represented litigants now. I mean, that's just the reality of the court system. We have to prepare for it, so.
And, well, yeah, I know.
And how we interact with people, how judges interact with people, and I think now that the reality is we just have to learn how to deal with more self-represented litigants.
And so when somebody comes in, obviously, and they don't have the funds, they ask for a court-appointed lawyer.
Yes,
Point.
yes,
But, yeah, are you talking about people that come in and say, look, I don't want a lawyer, I want to do it myself?
yes.
And usually in that situation, especially like in Superior Court cases, they assign a lawyer to sit with the person.
Yes.
Yes, but is that the way it's going to be like in the district court?
In some instances, yes,
Depending on the severity of the case.
absolutely, yes.
So we're okay, we're going to be able to keep working.
You're going to keep working. The judges have to have some guidelines about how to deal with them in the clerk's office, because you deal with people at the counter.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much.
That's right, Nella.
Let's follow up on that question. I'm a lawyer for a few years, but I'm more of a businessman. I don't go to court. So in the situation Councilor Juvie was referring to, an indigent, well, not an indigent, someone appears in court, doesn't have an attorney. If the case is serious enough, you'll appoint someone to sit with this person? I sort of missed what he said.
I don't know whether he's talking about civil, or you're not entitled to counsel, or you're talking about a criminal case. There's standby counsel on a criminal case, but you can represent yourself on a criminal.
Oh, yeah, but I'm saying that they have to be, I always thought they had to be indigent.
Yes. Yes.
So if somebody's got plenty of money, they can, yeah, okay. So someone who's indigent,
Yes.
and they say, no, I want to handle the case on my own. You will nonetheless appoint an attorney.
Yeah. If they can choose to represent themselves.
Okay, so I'm totally lost what he said. I thought, so
Well, in the,
that hasn't changed. That's the way it's been for a long time.
in the Superior Court,
Excuse me.
especially in serious
I mean,
cases,
it's playing something to me.
I know, but through the chair, okay?
Okay,
there's serious cases like murder cases, somebody says, I want to represent myself, you can. But they'll usually appoint somebody to sit with them to answer any questions.
Standby counsel. That's I'm not a Superior Court judge, but I believe you're referring to standby counsel. That's Superior Court rules, but I'm not a Superior Court judge, but you're referring to
I
standby.
understand. So in the district court, nothing has changed for him. So it's always been the same.
Yes.
Okay, he's talking about Superior Court. Well, good to see you, Judge.
Good to see you too.
Councilor Ferrara?
Hi, Judge, I'm sorry, I was a couple minutes late getting back from lunch, but where did you first meet the nominee?
She worked in the executive office of the trial court years ago. Then she worked in the district court administrative office. Now she works back in the executive office doing access to justice. So I've worked with her for years in different capacities.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I've seen you. Are you still on the bench now?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Where do you sit primarily?
I sit now in Region 1, which is Plymouth District Court, but for many years, I've always, my court of appointment is New Bedford, and I sit now in Plymouth County. I was, for many years, I sat in Brockton, and I was a presiding judge in Brockton for.
Thank you for coming on, I appreciate it, thank you.
Councilor Pereira, before you came, I was saying that 20 years ago, Councilor Ianella and I voted for Judge Bernard.
Wow,
Great.
great,
Yeah.
good job, good job.
Very much. That was one of my first nominees.
Wow,
Yeah.
great team.
I don't think so. So, any other councils have any more questions? Well, thank you so much. What a pleasure to see you. I did want to ask you one question. During this pandemic, how did the nominee, how was she able to operate and how did she do it? I know there's Zoom and everything, but tell me, it must have been difficult.
It was difficult, but I have to say, Elizabeth, she's been my right hand, my partner. We worked together so well. We really have developed a friendship and a collaboration. I did a lot of administrative work during the pandemic, and we really, she's become my right hand, and we have these early morning calls. We do every day, like around the clock. So we just got it done. As I said, she'd roll up her sleeves and we'd get it done.
That's great. And thank you for your service. Appreciate it. Our next witness is Clerk Magistrate Kevin Finnegan.
Madam Chair, where do you want me? I'll go.
Sit right over there.
We want you back in Peabody.
See you in Peabody, Council. Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the council. I don't have the seniority that Judge Bernard has, but it was 18 years ago this month that I appeared before this august board, and I believe it was Councilor Ianella and you, Madam Chair, that were the only two that were here, were there then.
Me too, yeah.
Go on record that it's much less stressful to sit in this chair than that chair.
It's true.
I really enjoyed my ride in today, not so much 18 years ago.
So you're back. Is this the first time you've been back?
I try and limit my trips to the State House these days. Yeah, no, I don't think I've ever come in and testified before. My pleasure.
Oh, that's
I
great.
wanted to be here for Elizabeth. And I don't want to repeat a lot of what you've just heard from the judge. And I absolutely agree with everything she just said. Elizabeth has had, a myriad of jobs throughout the trial court, and our paths kept crossing. And it was, she was always the troubleshooter that would come in from Boston if there was a problem, with mass courts or whatever it was, and then there was different things that she was tasked with doing. So I would often see Elizabeth on she'd be wearing different hats. I'd be doing the same job. She would be wearing a different hat. But it was when I received a call from then Chief Justice Dolly's office and asking if we would be willing to take Elizabeth in and train her actually as sort of a backup assistant clerk. It worked out really, really well because this was right pre-pandemic. And so Elizabeth came and she worked with us and she was trained on doing show cause hearings, CMVI hearings, small claims and things like that, things that magistrates do on a daily basis. But she also interacted with the staff and she also interacted with the public and lawyers and everybody else, things that magistrates do. And it's the intangibles. I mean, her resume is impeccable. It's the intangibles that Elizabeth has that I'm happy to testify about today. And it's empathy. I am going to parrot what the judge says, but it's empathy and it's compassion. And it's the common sense that she brings to the job. The things that can't be taught in school. Sometimes it doesn't matter how many years experience one has. They just don't get it. Elizabeth gets it. She's great with the staff. I was on my way here today and my staff said, where are you off to? And I told them why. And they were all so excited to hear that Elizabeth had been nominated. And they love Elizabeth. Everybody she comes in contact with immediately falls in love with her. They respect her for her legal prowess and her ability to get things done. But she's a genuinely great person. And it's my honor to be here today on her behalf. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Great. No, it's great seeing you. It's been wide. Right. And I have to say, it's so nice that I have two people that I voted for, one, and that it was two great votes that I look back on. I have no regrets, because I've often said I don't have a crystal ball, and sometimes some of these judges do disappoint me. You two never have as clerk magistrate. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very
It's been
much.
my honor to serve for the
Anyone have any questions for the clerk magistrate?
I have a lot of questions for him.
Thank you so much for coming. Now, is there anyone here that would like to speak on behalf of this nominee who's not on the list? You're welcome to speak. Okay. Hearing none. Is there anyone in opposition?
Peter?
Hearing none, excuse me, I laughed the first time. Okay. Anyway, hearing none, now it's your turn to make your presentation. And I hope that you'll introduce everyone in the room that came for you.
Okay, so I will do that. You've already heard from my friend Clerk Magistrate Kevin Finnegan, as well as from Judge Julie Bernard. And this is my husband, Peter, my sons, Peter and Christian, my sister, Sandra, and my daughter, Isabel. And on the other side, all alone, is Tom Ambrosino, who is the city manager of Chelsea, who I met when he was the executive director of the Supreme Judicial Court, and we became friendly since then. So thank you, Councillor, and thank you again to Judge Bernard and to Clerk Magistrate Finnegan for their kind words. I'll start by thanking Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Pliego for their time throughout this process and for their confidence in nominating me for the position of Clerk Magistrate of the Waltham District Court. I also want to thank the members of the Governor's Council for taking the time to meet with me and for being here today. Thank you to Chief Legal Counsel Bob Ross, JNC Executive Director Laura Green, and JNC Deputy Director Emily Gauthier for your kindness, guidance, and support throughout the process. Lastly, I want to thank the members of the Joint Bar and the JNC Commissioners for their time and dedication. Now, I'm not very comfortable speaking about myself, but I do want you to know a little bit about me and my background. My history, both personal and professional, have deeply informed my decision to seek the Clerk Magistrate position in the Waltham District Court. I was born and raised in Spain. My father, Ricardo Cerda, was an Air Force serviceman from Alice, Texas. He was stationed at Torrejon Air Force Base in Spain when he met my mother, Juanita Redondo. They fell in love, married, and had 5 girls. Unfortunately, my father became ill with lung cancer when my mother was pregnant with my little sister. He passed away before she was born. My mother became a widow with 4 girls under 5 and 1 on the way at a very young age, and she devoted her entire life to raising her girls. My mother is the strongest person that I know. If you were to see her, you wouldn't know. She's barely 5 feet tall, but what she didn't have in height, she had in strength, perseverance, determination, and love for her daughters. When my sisters and I were in elementary school, my mother learned that we were entitled to education at the U.S. Air Force Base through our father's service. She fought very hard to give us that in every opportunity in our life. In fact, our only source of income were the benefits she received from the U.S. government as a widow of an active serviceman. We didn't have much, but through my mother's hard work and dedication, she raised 5 independent and accomplished daughters who became a tenured university professor in the University of Alcalá de Henares in Spain, a pharmacist and a PhD research scientist, a physician at Boston Medical Center, and my sister Yolanda, who worked alongside me as a certified Spanish interpreter, whom some of you may know from working in the courts with her, and works in a law firm in Spain. And by the way, it's her birthday, so happy birthday if you're watching, Yolanda. We grew up in Spain, with Spanish being our first language. But it was important to my mother that we also learn English and that we stay connected with our father's legacy, country, and history. My mother also instilled in me her love of service. Although she had her hands full with 5 daughters, she spent most of her time helping others. She volunteered at the Red Cross, helped other Air Force members and their families find homes off base. She spoke Spanish and broken English, and she used them to help anyone who needed it. During Desert Storm, she also helped by bringing food to soldiers on their way to war. I think she has a letter from the time that she did this, and she still has it from that time. She keeps it safe. My mother always said that the American government helped her raise her girls and that she was an American at heart. One of my proudest moments was when I helped her go through the process of becoming an American citizen. I helped her study, I interpreted at her interview, and I was there when she was sworn in Boston. She was very happy when I came to Boston, but never really expected that I would fall in love with the city and stay. I had no family here and took a number of odd jobs to support myself, and it wasn't until an attorney that I had met told me that about court interpreting that I learned how my experience could be useful in public service. My first formative job, was with Blanca Bateau at the Judicial Language Center, now the Office of Language Access. That's where my passion for access to justice began. I saw and helped many people who, like me, were unfamiliar with the system and who, unlike me, could not speak the language. Helping them navigate the court system and understand their cases became my passion. I remember vividly the looks of confusion and fear in the eyes of those for whom I was interpreting. It was also my motivation to attend law school, so I could further help those involved in the justice system. Because I didn't have a family to support me, I had to continue working full-time as an interpreter while also attending law school full-time. Additionally, I volunteered as an intern for Superior Court judges to supplement my education and experience. I enjoyed working with judges so much that I applied for and I was selected for a judicial clerkship after my graduation in the Superior Court. I worked for incredible legal minds that remained my mentors and friends through the years, like the late Chief Justice Ralph D. Gans, with whom I maintained a close personal and professional relationship until the time of his passing. After my clerkship, I went into private practice for years, but I missed the trial court and my work in public service. I missed being able to support those who really needed the help, and so I returned to the trial court. And there I've held various positions: coordinator of intergovernmental relations in the executive office of the trial court, special projects coordinator in the administrative office of the district court, and access to justice administrator in the executive office of the trial court. I share my background with all of you because I think my experience, both professional and personal, have prepared me well for this moment, and I believe will also make me a better clerk magistrate. I would be empathetic, understanding of the circumstances that may have brought an individual to court, because my family has had so many challenges in our lives. Although I feel fortunate to be where I am in my life, I don't forget the challenges that I've had to overcome to get to where I am today. I believe that this keeps me grounded and will serve me well as clerk magistrate. We have an opportunity as clerk magistrates of the district court to really have an impact, to improve a person's and a family's life. That is what initially motivated me to become a lawyer, motivated me to return to the courts and public service and practice, and it is what motivated me to apply for the position of clerk magistrate of the Waltham District Court. I want to thank all of you for the time to speak in front of you here today. I especially want to thank these 4 people sitting next to me here who have always been there for me and who I love very much. Again, my 3 beautiful children, Peter, Christian, and Isabel, and my husband, Peter, who have all been a constant source of love and support for me. I'm very proud to have them alongside here with me today. Thank you.
Very much. Our rules are I call on someone that sits on my right, and that will be Councilor Idella.
Thank you very much. We had a lengthy conversation. You told me about your experience within the trial court. You've been involved in the trial court, various positions for 15 years. You're eminently qualified. You seem to be compassionate. You have humility, and when your name comes before us in this meeting, I'll support you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you. Councilor Kennedy.
Good morning. Obviously, I already know you, and I've known you for a while. I've known your husband for a century. He used to beat me up in court all the time when he was a young prosecutor. I'll bet about now he wish he gave me a couple of those continuance with our fine set. You started out as an interpreter for how many years?
I think about 7 years. I started before law school and then during my law school years as well.
And then you went to the trial court working on access to justice issues?
Yes,
It was under Justice Gantz? That was his big passion, right?
it was his big passion. And then he actually, the Supreme Judicial Court named me a commissioner to the Access to Justice Commission, which is where I serve with Judge Bernard as well.
How do you think that's going to fit in with your role as a clerk magistrate?
So in my opinion, I think that the clerk's office is the access to justice in the communities, in our communities, in our district courts. And I believe that everything that I've done so far is really going to serve me well, because I would bring all of the things that I've done in the last few years and implement them in Waltham District Court. I'm very proud of the work that we've done, especially during the pandemic. Judge Bernard spoke a little bit about the town halls that we've done, as well as, opening different portals and libraries to make access to justice more available for communities within their public libraries. We've done a lot of work, and I really think that all of that is going to serve me well as clerk magistrate.
You're not going to be able to collect signatures anymore. I'm going to miss you at the Winchester dump next time around. Thank you. I'll be voting for you next week.
Thank you so much, Councilor.
And Councilor Hurley has joined us. Do you have any questions, Councilor?
We spoke at length, and I was blown away by your resume. think we need people like you. And you answered all my questions. The only question I have for you is, how do you look so young?
How do I look so young?
Yes.
Stress-free, like, yeah.
You got 3 kids, all the work you've done,
There's 3 kids.
and you could be a model.
Good geez, my mother.
There you
She's
go.
91, she does not look her age. She's lovely.
Can she adopt me?
We'll ask her.
Okay. You're going to do a great job. I am totally confident with all of the education and experience that you've had. You're going to be a superstar. So I can't tell a lie. I'm going to be voting for you next week.
Thank you so much. Thank
Councilor Ferraro.
Thank you. I do like the fact that you were a law clerk in the Superior Court. That's where I started in '92, a little bit before you. Great experience. But yeah, I found it fascinating that, you've appeared in 1,000 criminal and civil cases as an interpreter. Like, what experience that is. Yeah.
Really.
And after that, you're like really smart lawyer working at this, like, stuff I don't understand with mergers and acquisitions and, so, incredible resume. I don't like the fact that, you got Councilor Kennedy's signatures and not me. So, but other than that, you certainly have my support next week.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Councilor Juverdale.
Thank you. Yeah, I've met you before. I'm sorry I didn't speak with you. I'm on a rather lengthy trial at Pittsfield, so luckily the judge gives me Wednesday off, but other than that, I have to be out there. And I think your resume is wonderful. You're wonderful for your witnesses, the great clerk from PBD and the judge. You got it all, I think. And I'm going to be voting for you next week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for all the time you afforded me. In 23 years, I have met with every nominee as the local judge, and it was such a pleasure meeting you, really. It's important to me because it's more than a paper. I want to meet with you. I want to know the person, the personal, and I really got to know you. And I have to tell you that I'm first generation American, and my parents came at different times as children. And I know what they went through, the prejudice and the discrimination, and I'm sure that you and your parents got through that. But you are remarkable, what you have done. And I have to say, I represent Waltham, and I know how many Hispanics are there. And it is such a value to have a clerk magistrate that can speak Spanish. Because as I said to you, I can't even imagine going into a courthouse where everyone speaks Spanish. I would be petrified. So, so that really is such an asset. And I'm impressed with, you took advantage of every opportunity to learn. You've been in so many positions, and you've been an interpreter, for all those years. But you also went overseas, which amazes me. I don't even have a passport. I never travel. So, I mean, when I think of that, you have seen the justice system everywhere. So you're bringing that to the court. So can you describe all that experience and how it impacts you in bringing that as a clerk magistrate?
So, yes, I have held different positions within the trial court. And I think that just every experience that I've had within the trial court and also in private practice is just some new addition to what I've learned, and that will bring all of that to the Waltham District Court. I mean, I have to tell you that I think that the best experience that I got in my legal profession and my life really experience was when I was an interpreter. I worked with a lot of people that were like me, were not familiar with the system when they started being involved. I mean, I remember when I started working as an interpreter, I was not familiar with the American legal system. Kind of learned it as I went, and I gained so much knowledge through that particular job. But I also learned so much about the human experience. I learned so much about what the circumstances that a person goes through that bring them to court. It's a really unique and awesome experience when you work as an interpreter. You work as, you work with the defense, you work with the DAs, you work with probation, you work behind the counter, you work with judges. It was a great experience, and I will tell you that's probably my most formative experience in my years working for the court system. I was able to bring that into access to justice later and expand on that so that it was not just language access, but also access to attorneys, disability access, providing information for self-represented litigants. So it goes beyond just my experience in language access, and that's always been what I feel most passionate about, to be able to help people and to be able to have that direct contact with people in the district court, in the clerk's office. I think that that's where I think I will be best served.
I'm just impressed from mental issues to disability, and I served on a commission of disability for 22 years. And I've seen the needs, and we really need someone in the court that understands, because I've been here 23 years and I don't hear the nominees talking about disabilities. That's so important. But you have worked and learned and served with the most outstanding judges. Justice Gantz. I first met him when he was an attorney, and I had the honor to vote for him 3 times as he moved up. Wonderful man, what a loss. And Justice Dolly, he just retired, I can't believe. And how much confidence he had in you. So Matt, instead of me talking about it, talk about the different positions that he put you in, whether it was Association of Interpreters, whether it was talking to the high school students. Why don't you talk about it?
So Chief Justice Dolly was, wonderful, wonderful person. As a boss, as a mentor, I enjoyed working with him. I worked in his office for, I think, approximately 8 years. And I did a lot of work with him, for him. We worked closely with the bar to prepare these different seminars. We traveled in different places in the state. Bench bar conferences. And so we worked with attorneys and people who practiced in the district courts to improve district court practice. So that was amazing. It was a great opportunity to learn how we are doing in different places in the state. I also was the alternative dispute resolution coordinator for the district court. And I worked with Judge Bernard on that as well. And that was a great opportunity. We have ADR programs. I want to say in most of our district courts, I think there's just 2 where we don't have any, and it may have changed since I left the district court a couple of years ago. But I think it's a great opportunity for people to try to mediate their cases and not have to actually go into court. So those are great programs, and we actually started conciliation programs, maybe 7, where attorneys actually assist self-represented litigants in settling their civil cases. I also started the Lee Johnson Collaborative, which was a civics program with high schools across the state to make sure that students understand what we do in the judiciary. We brought them into court, had them view what we do in the courts, speak to judges, speak to clerk magistrates and probation. And they also were able to hear directly from judges about their careers and what we do day to day in the district court, which I think is really important to make sure that we have that contact with high school students and students in general, so they learn what the judiciary and what the law is all about. So he gave me wonderful opportunities, including going out to courts and work with people like Clerk Magistrate Finnegan here.
Something I wasn't aware of, and I'm glad to hear it, and that you were there, that you reviewed all complaints from litigants and attorneys. That's the one thing I didn't know, because in the Industrial Action Board, when they're up for, renomination, we get sort of a report card on them, and for their term, and it tells how long it took for their trials, how many complaints, and they get a grade, 90, whatever, pitted against the other attorneys, and how many complaints they had of discrimination and all of that. But I thought, gee, we should have that in the court, and you're telling me you do. Tell me about that. That's very interesting. What responsibility?
So when a litigant is in court and they feel like they haven't been served they will write a letter, oftentimes, or make phone calls to the administrative office of the district court, to Chief Justice Dolly's office. And as one of the attorneys there, I know that other attorneys do this as well, but, we just handle those complaints. We investigate all of those complaints, we look into them, and we respond to every single complaint. That was something that we were really, we always wanted to make sure that we got back to everyone. Maybe someone didn't get a continuance, missed a court date, maybe someone had a disability and they needed some specific help that we maybe were not able to give them. So we just wanted to make sure that we responded to all of those complaints. And I mean, I learned a lot about that as well. I worked directly with clerk magistrates and with just staff across the district courts. And it always helped us, those situations help us improve as well. So they were great opportunities.
Right. No, that's very impressive. I think that, when we think of, a clerk magistrate, these are things that isn't part of their, job. And you're coming with that, you're bringing it. So, your access to justice administrator in the executive office, tell us about that.
So it's a statewide opportunity to take a look at what we're doing in the courts and to make sure that we are addressing and that we are providing access to justice to everyone. When I first started in that position, we had the opportunity to participate in a national survey of access to justice. Fordham University was the one that actually led that survey. And I remember we did pretty well. It was when I first started, so we really had to look deeply into all of the work that we were doing across the state. I believe we came third in the nation in Massachusetts and first in the Northeast. So they looked at things like language access, disability access, access for self-represented litigants, and attorney access. And we did very well, but like I said, it also served to sort of give me a guiding map as to how to improve access to justice across the state. So it was a wonderful thing to do right when I first started.
And Chief Justice Budd, appointed you, and that to me is very important. I look for pro bono, and you know what, in my experience, I don't see 40-year-olds involved in pro bono. I don't see that in their resume, and you have been noted for it. Can you tell me, can you think of, I'm sure you can think of a lot, but what was the most rewarding that you had for representing these people who couldn't afford lawyers?
So the committee that I belong to, and I work with Judge Bernard on that as well, is a committee that's looking into reviewing and improving the guidelines for judges' work with self-represented litigants. And it's, taking a new look, like Judge Bernard said. We're in a new world right now with technology. We need to make sure that we are providing litigants that do not have attorneys with, how much information can we give them regarding how to litigate their case. So that's what we're doing with that particular committee. As far as the pro bono work, I did a little bit when I was in private practice. We worked with just startup companies because my field was corporate law. So trying to help them get organized and start businesses and all of that. So I did do some pro bono work when I was in private practice as well.
It was interesting to me, and I've heard about it just in recent years, was changing lives through literature. So, but people don't know about that. Tell us about it.
So I am the Changing Lives Through Literature Program Administrator. I was appointed as administrator by then Chief Justice Paula Carey and also Chief Justice Dolly. And it's a program where it's a probation program where we work with probation, with a judge, and we form these programs to allow some probationers to just learn about literature. Maybe some probationers who have not had the opportunity to go to college, go to school. And it's a wonderful, wonderful program. We have judges across the state who say that changing lives through literature makes them better judges. they make, they allow them to see probationers and the people that appear before them in a different light. They read books together, they speak of literature, and we actually started our first jail program in Middlesex, the Middlesex jail, with the Middlesex Sheriff's Office. And it was a wonderful, wonderful program. It really gives us an opportunity to interact more closely with probationers. It's a great program.
It's amazing how many things you were involved in so effectively. I had asked Judge Bernard about how you operated through COVID, but you actually were on that committee. Tell us about that.
So we, I think we just all had to hit the ground running when we started operating remotely. We really had, we started doing our Zoom hearings. And a big part of that was to ensure that the people that we were requiring to join us in Zoom hearings really had the technology. So we opened up Zoom rooms. We trained our staff in the different courthouses as to how to operate the Zoom and how to be able to, make sure that we could add interpreters when interpreters were needed, that we could record the proceedings like we would normally in any clerk's office or in any courtroom. It was a great opportunity for us, and I think that one that we want to make sure that we don't revert back to how we did business before COVID. I do think that we are continuing to use Zoom, and hopefully it won't go away. That's something that I would definitely consider as a clerk magistrate. So yeah, that was it was just great to be able to meet and talk about what we were doing, what other states were doing, in order to improve how we serve the people of Massachusetts and provide access.
I had concerns during COVID about children being abused that we don't know, we're not in the home, and women's, but what I think of during COVID is 209As. And that's been a concern of mine because I'm full-time, so I'm very investigated what's going on in courts. And I know there are some courts that were doing it by phone. And all I could think of was, when you talk to someone, you have to look them in the eye, you have to know their body language. And especially, for 209As, how did that operate? Did you make any recommendations or anything on that?
So I do think that I'm not certain about how many of our courts, but I do know that some courts were actually bringing people for 209As. That was the one, maybe later on, as soon as we started bringing people back, because that was one of the primary points of concern. We did try with our town halls to go out to all of the different communities to let people know how to avail themselves of court resources. We had police also, police officers, and just during those town halls to be able to tell people what to do if they were in the circumstances that you were describing. I know that I did a lot of work with Chelsea just to make sure that people knew how to avail themselves of the services of the court during the pandemic, to make sure that everyone had the assistance that they needed.
What a journey you've had from an interpreter to being the senior administrator in the trial court. I mean, that's amazing what you've done. So looking at with your experience, and you've seen a lot, what recommendations would you make for the court? What needs to change?
So I think we're doing a lot of things very well. Again, I think that one of my primary points of concern would be to make sure that we are providing equal access to everyone to the courts. I think that participating in that survey that I told you about is really brought to light our strengths and our weaknesses, and where we could really use more help, more focus. And so I think that just being a part of all of that, I think that really, like I said, has provided a map. We do have a strategic plan, 23-25, in the trial court that we're getting ready to launch right now. And so all of those are improvements and lessons, they will implement a lot of lessons learned from the pandemic and how we can improve, the work that we do and the how we serve the court users. And that is one of my primary points of concern right now as well, is just how we serve the court user. I think that we really need to focus more on the court user perspective and ensure that we're serving them well.
In all your experiences, I'm sure there's many, but is there one that's outstanding that'll always be in your heart and your mind that was most rewarding, helping someone or whatever?
I think honestly, I think that all of my experience, like I said, as a court interpreter, I also love serving as a law clerk to the justices of the Superior Court. I think every one of the positions that I've held has given me a different perspective into the work that we do in the court system. Everything. Access to justice has been it's my dream job, and I just hope that I can bring all of that into the Waltham district.
No, I really feel that, some people go to clerk magistrate and never been in a courthouse. I've seen that here. And I don't always vote yes on some of these people who don't have any experience. And you certainly earned it the old-fashioned way. You are experienced, you're highly qualified. It's not a political insider that you got through, and that means a lot to me. So I do want to mention that I have to note this letter from the city of Chelsea, the office of the city manager. I want to read it. And he's known you for almost a decade. And we first met when he was executive director of the Supreme Judicial Court. And you were working for the Chief Justice of the trial court. So he talks about his close contact with you through the years. And he says you would be an extraordinary clerk magistrate. Intelligent, dedicated, fair-minded. Above all, she is empathetic and understands how the court system impacts its everyday users. You've spent the majority of your career helping people navigate the court system and trying to improve the accessibility. Virtually every program she has been involved with and every decision she has made has been centered on ensuring the judicial system treats people fairly and equitably. I saw this firsthand when I was at the SJC. And you were working in the trial court, and he conferred with you a lot, and your input and advice, your keen understanding, sensitivity, the court policies and procedures actually would affect users of the system. Always advocating for changes to ensure that a new policy would advance equity and accessibility. Your concern for ensuring that the court system is working for the most vulnerable has never wavered. One particular example which took place during this pandemic is illustrative. Early on during the crisis, with local district courts closed, Ms. Cerda was concerned with the lack of access to legal protection for tenants and other at-risk individuals. At that time, you were working as a senior manager for Access to Justice, and you reached out to him knowing how disproportionately impacted Chelsea had been by COVID. In short order, she helped to organize a very successful video conference among several chief justices, local community-based organizations, to discuss ways in which the legal protection could be accessed, notwithstanding the closure of courthouses. Her concern for the local community was compelling. And he said, as a long-time municipal leader, he knows how important it is for a community to have a close working relationship with a local district court. Having someone like you as a clerk magistrate, given her emphasis on service and good local relationships, would be extremely beneficial to any municipal government. It is not just your judicial work that warrants this letter. It is equally her strong character and personal traits. I have watched her interact with all types of individuals, from powerful elected officials and judges to clerical staff and cleaning crews. That's great. Regardless of their position, she treats everyone with extraordinary dignity and respect. She has an emotional intelligence and a goodness about her that is rare. When we were colleagues, I often would talk with her about issues and problems outside the workplace. She was consistently able to discern the essence of the problem, but always through the lens of her kind spirit. These traits will serve the Commonwealth well in any courthouse. As a longtime attorney and former administrator for the judiciary, I feel I have a good sense of what it takes to be a successful clerk magistrate in a busy trial court. I have no doubt that if chosen, wise judgment, even temperament, strong intellect, courteousness, and perhaps more importantly, abundant empathy will make her extremely well-regarded and successful clerk magistrate. I recommend her in the strongest possible terms. Thomas J. Ambrosino, City Manager. So, having said that, I would be remiss if I didn't. I ask every nominee this, your journey here. You went before the JNC. For people out there who don't know, the governor appoints 21 lawyers who have the awesome responsibility that I don't as a governor's counsel to appoint someone. I only am given the responsibility, one person, and you vote yes or no, advice and consent, that's all. I don't know how many applied, I don't have any information at all. So to me, what are responsibilities 21 people have? But guess what? In this administration, I've been here 23 years, this is the first JNC that there haven't been 21 people at any hearing. Yet 21 people vote. And I'm not saying this to you, but I want people out there to know. I am a big critic because I think the chair is not doing his job. Every other chair had 21 people there. Because 21 people are going to vote for that person, a life term. So having said that, how many people were at your hearing from the JNC?
I honestly, I can't recall. I think maybe 10. It felt like 100, but
That's par for the course. That's pretty
and the
good.
chair was there.
And it's wrong. It's wrong because it's too great a responsibility. And the chair splits them up. You go to this nominee, you go to that nominee. That's not how it should be. That's not how it should be. So I'm saying that for the public, and I'm sorry that I'm saying it in front of you, but I figured that's what it was. There's not the 21. But I am so pleased. I mean, I don't have a poker face. I've been smiling since I read your resume. So I'm happy. No one's more deserving of this position. And I apologize. This is not how it should be. You deserve better. But I thank you all for coming. And the process is next Wednesday at the public, at a public arena with the Lieutenant Governor. She will call on me and I will nominate you and we will vote for your nomination. And I'm so happy and I wish you all good luck in your new position. And I'm so glad you applied. Thank you very much. Adjourned.